Hello, and welcome to the Scientistsage Sangha. I'm Nancy Anderson Dolan from Wise Heart Wellness, and I'm so glad to see you here tonight. And we are going to talk about a special topic, especially for this time of the year, and it's called, it's pronounced, I'm not going to get it right. Darn, I've been practicing all week for this. Anyi is what the pronunciation is. What it means, it's an idea from Peru, high up in the Andes. The shamans there, they talk about it as a spiritual principle, but it's a lot bigger than just this reciprocity that they talk about. They talk about a sacred reciprocity, and it really all begins with the caring and offering and connecting to the planet. And so people, tribes, cultures all over the world for thousands of years have made offerings of thanks for the sun, the moon, the water, the plant, the crops, the animals, whatever's available to them. They've made overt offerings for thank you. And that is part of the idea of this sacred reciprocity, so that we are thanking everything that we get and we are giving back. And it's not the kind of reciprocal relationship that is, sort of tit for tat, this for that. If I give something to you, you give something to me. And it's not that small. This is a much bigger concept. It really is about being grateful. And the more we know, the more grateful we can be. So when we understand that the chances even of landing on a planet like this that could support life in the way that it does, and really understand that we have an opportunity here to really look from even the beginning of things, like when we're breathing. This planet has been designed so that the trees breathe out what we breathe in, and they breathe in what we breathe out. And so it's perfectly set up for us, and giving thanks for that kind of synchronicity and that kind of real gift. And that many cultures do the directions, give thank you to all the directions, and people are, like, well, why would you do that? And there's so many representations, and they're not the same in every single culture, but there is an idea of representations of, in the South perhaps being community and closeness, and the North being the mystery and the power that keeps us alive, and the East being this new day every day. And so different ideas like that, but underlying it is always this reciprocity. And we have fallen out of that. And actually, one of the Indigenous elders has a prayer that she says to have white people be relieved of their sickness of hoarding. And because there is not a reciprocity in that. It is this idea of, I need to get stuff, and I need to get more stuff, and there's not enough stuff. And if I have some stuff, then, I'm okay. But if you don't have stuff, that's your problem. And there's a lot of that sort of energy running through our world right now. And people saying, like, that's not happening here, so it's not my problem. And the idea of division, as opposed to the idea of connection that comes about from this reciprocity. Because it isn't that, I got an egg from your chicken and I'm giving you some bread from my fields. Not that kind of exact trade idea, which has really grown up as different countries and people started to mix together. And they lost this idea of the natural reciprocity of life. And when we really understand that, and we move into it and take it as part of our daily life, that, we get up and we say, thank you for the sun coming up, or we get up and we say, thank you for the home that I live in. There is this difference. If I live in that deep gratitude, and a gratitude that isn't based on expectation or privilege. When I have a whole bunch of things, I run out of energy to be grateful for them all, actually. But I also get an attitude, and they talk about that sort of privileged attitude, like I should be able to have all of these things. And a lot of the elders can't fathom why somebody would have a garage with 6 or 7 cars in it. Or the other one is the idea of having spare rooms that nobody sleeps in at night. Those kinds of ideas. And with that, there are some people that are tremendously grateful for that, and they live a little differently, and they come along and they are, sharing those things or giving away in the same way that whatever they're given, they share. And so that sort of thing is the basis of this idea of reciprocity. And it really is an important idea for us to grab hold of, I think, especially right now where we can go one way or the other. People in helping professions often give more and more and more and more. And we do have a rampant disease called codependency that we try and control people by giving to them. And all of those kinds of things are a deforming of this idea of Anyi, of just this natural flow of life in and through. And when we hoard things, we slow down that energy of that flow of life through things. And so there is a belief deep in a lot of indigenous cultures that if we are greedy, we actually will suffer and get sick, and our countries will suffer and get sick, and we will suffer and get sick. And so this giving and receiving in equal measure, and especially at this time of the year, we want to get back to the harmonious relationship. And it is with nature, with people, with, communities. And the ideal of it is that people work together for the good of others. And so when at this time of the year, when people fill a bus with food and they give that away, and then somebody else drops off turkeys to people, there is a lot more giving and receiving going on. But we need to think both of, if I am a person that gives all the time, how can I restore the balance? And I don't start taking things, that's not how it works, but I start honoring everything that I'm receiving. And it can be like just receiving the sun on your face. Where I live, we've had a spectacularly nice day here, where we often would have a lot of snow and deep cold. And so as I was walking today, I was thinking exactly that. Like, I'm so grateful for this moment, this little blessing that came out of nowhere, and enjoying it deeply and letting that receiving it really sink into my bones. And that deep gratitude actually changes the chemicals in your body. There's a researcher, Candace Pert, that does a lot of research on this sort of idea, the molecules of emotion. And the molecules of emotion are the things that move through your body when you're feeling something. And they have the power to trigger epigenetic changes, mood changes, physiological changes in your health and wellness. And we are a lot healthier when we are both appreciating what we've been given and we are giving to other people. There's a lot of research on what they call the Good Samaritan. And when people are truly just giving from the heart, not giving because it's a good idea to give, because then you get, not that kind of surface level, or even the kind of thing where people throw money in a box for charity, things like that, with no real connection. You don't get the same body and mental experience. You don't get that spiritual connection of Anyi. Anyi really is this deep idea of, I am so blessed that I can share these things. And I trust that the universe will give me everything that I need. So I'm not having to trust my neighbor. Maybe my neighbor will shovel my walk if I shovel his. Not that kind of energy to it, but really just listening deeply to ourselves and moving with that kind of giving and receiving. So many of us don't feel comfortable receiving. I am graced all the time with so many people giving so many lovely things to me. And I can start to feel like that. And then I go back to my practice about, oh, what can I give and how? How am I supposed to give right now? And what am I supposed to give? And it turns up all the time that I have something unique that somebody needs or wants, or I feel guided to give it to them. And then they go, oh, this is amazing. And it might not be something that I think is worth that kind of praise, we'll say. And it may be something that I can give really easily. And so I think that it's not somehow a fair balance. And when I really sit down into myself, that kind of flow moving through is often there, that the giving comes with complete ease, and not in the sense of, oh, I have to give something to this person. What should I give them? It is, oh, there's that person and look what I have for them. And sometimes it's just even surprising. So I really want people to settle in and think about this a bit, because when we are not doing well, whether it's an illness or some sort of adversity, it really is, in shamanic terms, the first step in treating the issue. And so we might sit and think, where have I not been appreciating things that are for me, that have come to me in life? And is there things that I can be giving? Have I stepped out of the loop of giving and receiving of Anyi? And that balance, that harmony, that flow of life. And so that this idea isn't easy for our culture to understand, because we don't think of it in that way. We think of collecting things. And then sometimes we will be charitable. But really, in this breathe in, breathe out flow, because if we're only breathing in, we'll die. If we resist breathing out, won't get well either. And so this wellness really is this back and forth flow, breathing in, breathing out. And we can see it with nature. If we take too much from nature, nature gets sick and there starts to be less for everyone. It's not just me and mine, but less for everyone, where most cultures began with ideas of that balance of what we can take from nature and what we give to nature. And there's been some interesting research in the past decade or so that when people give prayers to plants, the plants grow better. And so this isn't that we have to not engage with the natural world. It's very much engaging with other people, with the natural world, with the natural flow of things in ways we might not expect, though. Like we might pray over plants, or we might feel the sending of good wishes to places in the world right now that have a lot of conflict in them, but not just for the side we believe is right, but for everyone impacted by that. And that is part of the giving and receiving. If I am in a place living peacefully and safely, I have that energy to give to people and places that don't experience that at this moment. And sometimes we do it just in our thoughts like that. And sometimes we go into a deeper spiritual trance, and we might actually do some sort of ritual or practice. And one of the ones that came to me as I was working with a shamanic circle in the last little while about one of the places experiencing war was to pat the ground. So in imagination, I would journey to that place and I would literally pat the ground because I could see other beings and perceive them doing that. And I'm like, that seems like a really good idea to shift the energy in that place. So we never know for sure the outcome of our giving. But when we just practice the giving, we can be reassured that with a good heart behind it, it will do good. So that life force that we want to keep moving, we each have a part of moving it, whether or not, whether we are people that have, say, taken a lot from the land, or whether we're people that fight for the land's rights and us not to take so much, we all have something to give to the process. When we give negative energy, it doesn't help. It actually makes things tighter and it makes things more adversarial, that kind of energy. But we can bring this other kind of energy, imagining that flow, imagining people caring for the land, imagining the land regenerating. And so when we are in that mode, we are helping. It's, again, not a, it goes far beyond the I can fix everything, this is my problem or their problem, or it really goes beyond the entitlement of our modern culture. And we all participate in the ways that we each are shown to participate, in the ways that we each understand this. But when we can do that and step back from our typical culture of taking and taking and taking and entitlement, and some of these things are great, like, every child should have food for breakfast in the morning and all those kinds of things, but they build up into things that we take for granted, but other countries don't have any of it all, like a roof over their heads or things like that. And so that balance of resources and balancing how we own things and give things and share things is really what we're looking for. So I really want to say, as I close here, it isn't about you have taken too much, give it back. Not like that, but really feeling for our own guidance about, do I need things? What is enough? That feeling of enoughness comes from being in the right relationship to Anyi, the giving and taking. And when we're in that right relationship, we feel a connection. When we are not, we feel a sense of separateness because we feel if someone else has more of something, then I may have less, that there's not enough. But when we're in the flow of Anyi, there is enough because it will just keep flowing and people will give and people will take and people will give back. So that idea here is what I'd invite you to take into the season this year. See when is enough for you. What does it feel like? There's lots of expectations, lots of cultural expectations, family expectations, certainly marketing and advertisers and shopping expectations. But we can feel for our own way with Anyi, what I want to give and being grateful for what I receive. And so it's both parts of that. You can't have one without the other. So I think that's where we'll slow it down here. There's lots more to read and look into about our cells and the neurochemicals and the brain chemicals that change when you get in right relationships like that, because a lot of fear drops away and there's just a lot of surrender and confidence in the world, and it's preserving itself and caring for me. So I will ask people that are with me to just start to relax, and we're just going to do a little visualization, see if we can get a little more in the flow. And if people are watching this later, after this part, we will close. And for people that are live, we will close and have the live discussion. So thank you for joining us so far. If you have any questions or comments, or wish to make a donation or a suggestion for a topic, please send that to scientistsage@gmail.com. Okay, let's relax. We'll just start with breathing. Breathing in, accepting all that lovely air, and then breathing out, releasing it back. And you can close your eyes if you want to. Feel free to go off camera if you're live. And just start opening up to that feeling of Anyi, of the coming and going of things, of this lovely planet giving us safety by holding us with gravity. Gift of gravity. And then imagine just seeing a light in your heart and in your mind. And during this season of celebration that we're recording this in, imagine letting that light come and go between you and other people. And you may just see this going to people you love, people in your home, as you exchange kindness. And when you are involved in gifting, I would ask you to ensure that you are sitting into that deeply and having it come and go, that energy of gifting. So that it's as much about the energy that you hold as you wish people a happy holiday, or as you are gifting and receiving. And even as you go about your days out in the world, think about sharing that energy of joy with people you're around, standing in the lineup, riding on the bus, being in traffic jams. It literally is spreading that holiday feeling, that holiday cheer. But we can do this all year round. And just notice if you have been a giver that has perhaps over-given, and allow yourself to notice that. And not the chatter on the top. Like, well, I gave that woman a sweater and they only gave me a, little bauble. But the feeling underneath of, oh, I feel like I'm not receiving. And just open up to that field of receiving. Not necessarily things from people, but it might be a moonlit sky. It might be the comfort of your bed as you get into it at night, or a smile from a stranger. Let joy be part of the energy that you receive.
going to invite you all to come back because my computer just gave up.
But it's okay.
It was such a good thing we're here. I'm just going to pull the little chair over.
And look what I just received.
Okay. Perfect. We're here. So, here we are. Feel free to share it, Will.
Surprise.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I just like to say I'm very grateful that you were at Susan's and had a backup.
Me too. I could just run in the other room. See, this is the flow of the universe.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Parallel realities.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have much to say about this concept. The hoarding kind of thing led me to Peter. The word Peter uses quite often, entitlementia. And
I love that word.
yeah, usually, but he uses it frequently. And you know what? We've been thinking about a lot of these things. It was him retiring. We'll only need one car. It'll be very rare that we would need two. And that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, it's certainly worth contemplating. And I will say, anyone who's ever been in our basement would probably think we were hoarders. Sometimes I think we're about far away from it. I might be over generous in that. But you know what? We think about, I mean, we're not planning to move anytime soon, but when we bought this house, we had 2 kids and 2 dogs, and 2 teenagers and 2 dogs, and now there's just the 2 of us and 1 dog.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel quite overwhelmed by it. Like when I'm trying to clean up, it overcomes and overwhelms me. And so, yeah, we're thinking about downsizing and what will we do with all this stuff, because, well,
Yeah.
I do have a niece who's part of a she's got a stitch and bitch group, basically, is what it is. They knit and crochet and talk about stuff. And I have bags of yarn in the basement.
Oh, there you go.
If I live to 100, I'll never use it all up. And some of it even was given to me, and it's woolen, and it's wool, and I react to that, so I can't use it anyway. So I've been thinking for several years, I need to get that to Sasha. Still sitting in my basement. So, and like I asked you today about some things I wanted to give away, but I wasn't sure who to give them to, and
we were talking about
how
this
appropriate it would be. And yeah, so it is a very interesting concept, this whole thing about, like, just think about, do I really need this? I will say I do believe I need a queen size bed to myself. My health depends on it's a medical requirement. And you know what? When you're talking about, sharing things, I really want at least a small garden. And I don't have one yet, but I have been thinking, well, if I have too much here, I have lots of friends and neighbors I can give them to. I've planted 2 apple trees. One of them is barren, has been for about 5 years, never one blossom on it. The other one, that's a couple of apples the first year, and little less the second year, and third year, nothing. I don't know what's going on there. But it bothers me because when I had an apple tree, I always gave people, you know, I always had too much. Always had too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's and my family would still give gifts to Peter's kids, but my kids, we don't exchange gifts. The agreement was we would make donations to the food bank instead of buying each other things we don't need, certainly, and maybe don't even want. I'm not sure anyone else has actually done it. One year, someone confessed that they haven't, but it still feels like a reminder to us that that we do have so much compared to so many others. Yeah, it feels more like the holiday doing that than spending a lot of money on some things that. I mean, we give the grandkids money because I don't know why they're both working now, but you know, just because they're we want to be the good grandparents, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it bears a lot of contemplation. I will say, I love my plants, and I tell them that, and I tell them that they are beautiful, but that I love. Clearly, my China doll. I love it very much. That didn't save my plumeria, unfortunately. After about 15 years, it died. But it just probably was lonesome for Hawaii. But anyway, yeah. So this was a good cop. I couldn't figure out how to pronounce that word either.
I know how to pronounce it, and I still couldn't do it.
Yeah, you know what? I wrote it out phonetically in German because I thought that E-I-N-Y. Yes, that's right. Yes, fine. The other thing I was telling you about that play all is calm about the truce on in the First World War on Christmas Eve 1914.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What came out of that was phenomenal. And the people were crying at the end of it. It was so, and what they were all, it was eight men who had incredible voices and singing beautiful harmony, 8-part harmony, and singing the songs that the soldiers sang during the First World War. And the dialogue was all from letters that the soldiers who were there had written. And it was profound, absolutely profound. And the one thing that they were, and they were ordered to fight when they heard that they weren't. They were playing soccer and singing Christmas carols. And they were ordered, and they ignored it. And the repercussions, they pissed off Winston Churchill, I think. But they did it. And what they were saying was like, what would happen if the soldiers on the front lines, which they were, just quit fighting? It'd be done. There'd be no more war if the soldiers just quit, you know? So there's been a lot of stuff this year as come at me. And it's interesting. This was very interesting. Nancy, thank you very much. And I'm so glad to see so many people back. Missed you.
Lovely.
Yeah. So thank you. I love you all. You know that.
Hello. Hey, Nancy, this is proof that you and your sister have to do the visual podcast because you're even perfectly matching in your clothing. And see, you just work together. Oh, I can't hear you. Can't hear anything.
We have a whole season of healing circles that we're organizing to do for next year already. We're on. We are
In
on.
person or on people?
Both actually.
Both? Oh,
Hybrid.
doing it together?
Yes. Yes. That's
Oh.
what we're doing.
That's so good to hear. That's a gift to me.
Gift to us too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is so interesting. I've never heard of the word or the people. Well, I've heard of the Incas, but I've never heard of this, although it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And in a sense, too, for me, having grown up in Newfoundland, we're kind of like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I have 7 siblings, and now with both my parents gone, like we've always helped each other out.
Yeah.
And well, everyone you know, but
Yeah.
it is bordering on the side where you're giving away too much money, too much of yourself. You cook
Yeah.
a meal. One of my sisters would just give the whole thing away.
Yeah.
When I was staying with her this summer, she lives in a condo building now, so she's very friendly with the people on the floor, and she does a lot for them. Well, one woman, my sister was gone away for 2 nights, so I was at her condo, and this woman delivered a card and a homemade bundt cake of some sort. And when my sister came back, she was almost cursing on it because she didn't want it. And I said, well, like, you do so much, do you know what I mean? And I don't know if it's just because she has a hard time receiving or she just really didn't want it, but people are going to reciprocate.
Yeah.
In their way, the way they give, right? And this woman's gift obviously was baking because it was a beautiful cake, which my sister gave away to someone else. So maybe it is all reciprocity. And I first heard that word in photography because there's something when you reach a certain point of light in a camera that the reciprocity between the exchange of the light on your film and the light.
Oh, cool.
That it reaches a point where it no longer exchanges information. It's very hard to even explain. That was years ago. And I could never pronounce it. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to say is that I now have a dog who's blind and has been doing his business in my house. And last night I got so frustrated because he's like peeing puddles. He's only this big. He's peeing puddles this big in the middle of the night in the same place. So last night I stayed up late to take him out, and I was outside in our beautiful weather with him for like half an hour. He wouldn't even move. Like he seems to be getting some disorientation or dementia.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was just mad, self-pity, everything you to feel then, and then trying to have compassion for him. I mean, he's blind. He's hardly wags his tail anymore, occasionally, but and then this morning, really still like that. My husband's gone all day, so which is why I've been in and out of this conversation, because he had to go out right now. He wouldn't go out earlier.
That's
and
good.
I go with him because yesterday he got lost in the dark way over here, and we live so it's just gotta, every day is bringing new challenges and new ways of dealing with it. But anyway, then I was sitting there and I wrote and I did a few things. I'm like, but I'm not in my body. My whole body is going like this because I had visitors on the weekend and I had meetings yesterday. Anyway, I'm like, okay, so I'm not in my body. I know how to get in my body. Do you want to do it? No, I don't. I just want to eat or run or hide. It was so obvious. It's like shoving it in your own face. I'm like, no, okay, I am going to do something. And I did. And then after that, I received some gifts. So
Yeah.
from how do you say the word? Anyi?
Anyi.
Anyi.
Like Anyi.
Anyi. Because then I was thinking about my mother, and obviously I'm not bawling tonight, but and I found it hard to watch her ashes go in the earth, but I thought, like, I've been drawing so much strength from the earth and the sky, like both. And I thought, now Mom's part of that. Like, she's me, I'm part of her, and I can draw it from a different viewpoint. And it was very cool. And when she died, my family asked for no flowers and donations to the food bank. And, we raised over $3,000 for the food bank. That was the last count. My sister told the woman she didn't need to know anymore. So I don't know if she's getting more updates, but Mom would have loved that.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good just because that's what she would have done. She went to church.
Yeah.
All the time, and every time she had a food item in her hand for the food bank at the church. And that's the church who handled this food bank. So it's just so lovely. And just the last thing was when you were talking about, especially how we all have everything, 2 cars and so much stuff and empty bedrooms and on and on. And out here, I get kind of jealous or envious. And well, I always have. It's not out here my whole life, because Nancy's been one who's helped me with this, because you compare. Oh, well, they got that and I got this, right? And I don't have that. So I look around and think, shit, how did I get in this place? And then when a moment later or another moment, I'm just grateful, and even to live like where I live, it's a quarter section of land in the woods, and that's 160 acres. And my Rocky's brother and his wife, 4 of us bought it. So we share the property. We have a huge garden that we share with them. They have a cabin out here. We do a lot of community stuff. A lot of our mutual friends come. We just do community stuff. So it's just the way we live here. When they're out here, we always eat together. Well, occasionally we don't, just if we need our space that evening, but it's nice, it's nice to have that. But I had a big huge house in Calgary. I no longer have that. And now I hardly have a closet. I have 2 at my front door, and that's my closet. And it's okay until I compare and I go to someone else's house, like, oh my God, like, look how organized they are and look what they have. Look, they do. They took care of their money better than me. They did this, they did that, and they're have the perfect life or whatever. So it's a gift to learn this, a different way of gifting, especially at Christmas time. So thank you. Thank you.
And so it's not easy to get back in the flow when we get gripped by those things that we don't even know somebody piped into our head a long time ago, and settle back into the flow. Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
Hi.
So what came to mind, we watched, it was sent out by our admin. It was a video of the little boy, and he's going the power of words. And it's going a little TED talk about 5 minutes. And he did, he basically had water samples, and with some water samples got, I love you, you're awesome,
Right.
And the water samples got, oh, I hate you, you're ugly, all that kind of stuff. And then they showed pictures of these slides of the water and just how we're energetic beings. And so what came to mind is that when we're giving positive things, the energy is very warm and it enhances the relationship and the reciprocity. But when it's negative, some of the cells shut down. And so it's the importance of the connection to being in the present and the giving. What we get back is like the karma. If I give good things, I'm going to get good things back. And if I'm in touch with nature and the nature's in touch with me, it's all that ebb and flow. And it's interesting because I went for a walk and it was like this gorgeous, of course, weather's nice here too. And I thought, holy cow, it's just alive. If you're just open to it, it just whelms you sometimes. Like, rage. I'm a part of this universe, and it's so overwhelming if you really think about it. But also just being able to take it all in and absorb with all our energy being in all ourselves, it's just so uplifting. But I agree with society. I think I'm with you, Nancy, and sometimes we want to bring down, like we were talking about, Marie, we compare, and Normandy. Sometimes our house is like, oh, we should have so much shit. But it's a purpose of being there to realize what really, even if it's all the stuff around, what's the most important. So I might be surrounded by all this shit, but I'm still okay. Or I still have I still have this, or what's that value that's important in all this kind of fluff? Because really it's all fluff. What's the most important part? So that's what comes to mind when you say Anyi, about being just accepting for right now. And I look around and go, yes. And I think that's the mindset sometimes is that
Yes.
realization that I am okay. This is all right. And if it's not
Yeah.
right now, it's gonna be tomorrow, or it's gonna be the next
Yeah.
minute. And it's the ebb and flow. And there's
Yeah.
the ups and downs, right? So yeah, it's very interesting actually when I think about it, because when I'm off, people around me are off. And if I'm on, like when I'm centered and grounded, it's a way better day. Yeah. So kind of how we have that ripple effect. The
Well,
pebble
I
in the
need
pond,
with
drop the
energy.
pond. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've dropped the pond and all that, the energy just goes out.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
positive. It's always good. So yeah, I'm the creator of my universe.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
And the receiver of my universe too. That it's
Absolutely.
sort of like an echo when it goes out, and
Yes.
then all of a sudden it returns.
And to add to
And-
that
Yeah.
comment you made about the safety is when I feel safe.
Yeah.
Or when we're in a safe relationship or safe people.
Yeah.
There's so much depth that can be done, and so much
Yeah.
walls that can be put down,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that receiving can be way more
Yeah.
deep and have depth versus
Yeah.
my walls up. Sorry, can't do it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was very
Oh,
touching.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when you talk about having the walls up, like I might be uncomfortable with somebody who has a lot more than I do.
Mhm.
And so I can, and if I can just sit into me,
Mhm.
there's an exchange for us that
Yes.
I will have more wealth in something.
Mhm.
And we're always going like this back and forth. But when we are so scope focused on material things and things that have sort of been taught to us to be the thing,
Mhm.
it's not, we get so mixed up with that. And then we start to feel like there's sort of levels, like
Yeah.
they're up there and I'm down here, as opposed to this. And Anyi is always like this. So
Mhm.
it's never the idea that somebody has to be better than, or if I don't have something, I'm less than somehow. There's this constant flow, and there's this bigger picture of there's a constant flow. You know, it may not be even in my lifetime that I have these different things, but it flows. And if I settle into that flow, I'm so much more at ease.
Oh, absolutely.
Giving and receiving, and I don't feel bad for people giving things to me.
Mhm.
I just feel
Absolutely.
I've become a sort of a transportation port or something, because people will say, I want to let go of some things, but I don't feel like I can. And I'll say, well, whenever we see each other, why don't you just give me what you want to give away, and I will circulate it out in the universe somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, since I had this idea of myself as being this hub, more and more people are spontaneously doing this. And I go, oh, well, I know there's a person that could use this thing. And and all sorts of different things. And it's so lovely to be sort of on the factory floor of the flow of the universe. It feels like
You're the manager.
it's like, okay, yes, I'll do my job over here. Good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's a very fun feeling.
Mhm. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And especially to take into this season, where we can get all sort of caught up in that material level of stuff. And just like a gift, I found a gift for someone that is so just that the universe wanted them to have it. And because I would have been the only person on the planet that would have recognized that would have been a good gift for them. And only because I'd had a different experience with that person over here. And I'm like, oh, I see. Yes, I'm going to buy this and give it to them because it's on its way to them. And, just feeling like that, it's so much more fun than worrying about what will they think of this? Is this an even deal? These gifts are, it's just so much fun. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, now let's close a little less abruptly than earlier. Thank goodness there's a universe that takes care of me. I would be lost without it. Yeah. Ah, I am with you. You are with me. listen to. Have a good week, guys. Now you have to shut it because I can.
Yes, yeah, I can do that. Yay. Toodaloo.
Bye, everybody.